This talk, thank you for Professor Fu introduced. So this talk, I will work with my PhD student, Lucia, and I will talk first half and let her to do, because she's doing the PhD, it's about Ningbo case, so I think she can present some latest findings according to her study as well. So we work together anyway. So I just start Lucia first. So I think this talk is good to this series Professor Fu and Professor Wong and Professor Jia invite us is good because we want to sing the overview, just want to kick off the section by talking about China on urban third. So Professor Fu is correct. We have a very serious third in 2012 July in Beijing. So this third is ringing the bell of the urban third in China, and then also gave the government to think about the urban third issue. That's why I think it's related to Shun City program established after a year. So of course, it's not just Beijing. Third is many Chinese megacities and also has urban third. For example, Shenzhen after a year and after 2 years, so consecutively has lots of urban waterlogging issues because of the drainage cannot offload the intensive rainstorm. So, and after that, in 2016, I think if you live in Wuhan, you know, in that year, in July, has a big flood as well for the urban flood in that city. So it's quite serious. And also, it also rains a lot of issues that question about whether people see what is the function, what real function of blue-green infrastructure and Shun City. So after that, as Professor Fu just mentioned, in Zhengzhou this year, and not just Zhengzhou, because Lucia herself is living close to Zhengzhou in Hebei province. So in that region has big rainfall in the whole summer autumn season, which is really abnormal because it's dry time. So I mean that have the very big flood in July that everybody knows it. And also we are in Ningbo, and then we also experienced flood in 2013, and this year because of the two super typhoons, one is Ficho and this year is Infa. So we also experienced flood that has been just occurred. So that's actually just a very short story. So how Shun City program related to this, the Chinese government want to use blue-green infrastructure type to offload the Shun City, offload the stormwater, and then those urban water design is just try to deliver multiple benefits, not just enhance better stormwater management up to 1 in 30 years return period, but also just try to enhance urban ecosystem services and also deliver multiple benefits. For example, have more parks for people to enjoy and those issues. So we are not here to explain and compare all the practices between green infrastructures by America, like best management practice, LID, and such, but actually it's a progress and it's related to Shun City program. And then I think if you're interested, I can send you some paper we published. And so basically Shun City program also is really related to green infrastructure. That means it has protective design, filtration design, infiltration, and storage design. So you can see that different functions here in this diagram. And so we also has been follow the guidance of the Shun City construction practice guidance. It has quite a few common practice. For example, permeable pavement, green roof, and rain garden, or bioswales and artificial wetland park, or those things is quite common to use in across 30 Shun cities in China. And we also see the progress of Sun City from the start in 2013 initiate, and 2014 the government published the guidance on construction and also legislated there. And then 2015 to 2018 is elect 30 fund cities across 2 phases, and also in 2018 they also published the assessment to assess the performance of these fund cities and how they do in a pilot project. And so far now we are in the first stage, the short-term stage is all finished, and then now we're getting into a long-term stage in 2020 to 2030. So that means lots of cities need to chase up the target that to recycle 70% of rainfall, and also expand the fund city measures in their cities. So there's the urban stormwater management in Chinese cities. For example, we understand the government select those first cities across different meteorological region. So that's why I want to mention that Zhengzhou this dam, is not located in a very wet region, but in such a big rainfall, then it's very hard for blue green infrastructure can actually withstand those extreme weather. So I think I just want to reiterate to all experts here, the government has done a lot of homework before they select those first cities across the country in different climate zones and different geography. And then so for example, in different rain return period for 70%, 6% for the responsible rainfall. So I think everybody knows it because especially you guys are data and analytical experts. So I will pass the time to Lucia to speak about Ningbo case. Now, Lucia, thank you.
Okay, next I will talk about the smart city construction in Ningbo from the governance and the planning perspective. But before we talk about the Ningbo case, I want to have a look at the smart city concept in the political agenda. So the concept of smart city is gradually recognized as a new approach for the urban sustainability and the resilience compared to the traditional engineering solutions. And the concept of smart city now has been put into the different policy instruments from various aspects, from the national level to the local regulations. And not only on the water management, but also you can see, because the smart city has a co-benefit on the air quality, the biodiversity, and public health. So it was also compiled into the green city, the climate change, the ecological civilization, and the urban and rural planning. For example, you can see the last year, this year, the last month, the State Council just issued an action plan to peak carbon emission by 2030. They mentioned to build a smart city for green and low carbon planning and design. And also in the 14th five-year plan for national economic and social development and the long-term goals for 2035, the smart city was also mentioned to enhance the urban flood and control and the drainage capacity. So you can know the smart city is a comprehensive and systematic concept and project. So it needs to connect with other sectors like the urban roads, the green space, the drainage system, and water logging systems. So the coordination with different institutions is very important. Face the next slide. So many pilot cities have set up the smart city leading group responsible for the managing the whole process of smart city construction, integrating the master planning, regulatory detail planning, project design, construction, and evaluation. We take a case of Ningbo. You can see the Ningbo construction and the housing committee is appointed as office director, and the Ningbo Finance Bureau, Water Resources Bureau, and the construction and housing committee, they were appointed as the office deputy director, and other office members, they were selected from the municipal and district governments, and some other municipal department and other units. And interestingly, you can see the Ningbo propaganda department of the municipal communities also engaged in this process. So which means the value of the public perception participation recognized by government. I will talk about that later, like how Ningbo City promotes the news in the social media to promote the smart city construction. Next slide. And this table shows a smart city achievement in the last few years and their future aim. For example, at the national level, by the end of 2020, there are more than 40,000 projects have been completed smart city construction, and the annual utilization of the water resources has reached 350 million tons. And their future aim is more than 20% of the urban built-up areas should meet the construction requirement by 2030, according to the national guidelines. At the provincial level, since the 13th five-year plan, there are 24 smart city demonstration counties, and Ningbo has passed the national pilot acceptance test. And there are over 25% of built-up areas has reached the smart city construction target at the municipal city level, and in the and their aim is by the end of the 2025, there should be over 55% of the urban built-up areas reach the smart city target. And using the Ningbo as a case, by the end of the last year, there are more than 20% of the city built-up areas have reached the target by observing and the utilization of 17% of the rainfall locally. And they still want to increase the smart city construction areas to increase more than 5% of the areas in Ningbo. And next slide. Next, I will introduce the Ningbo. You can see this is a topographical map of the Ningbo. Ningbo is a coastal city surrounded by the mountain in the three sides and facing the coastal sea. And because of that, Ningbo is always at the risk of both of the pluvial and the coastal flood risk. And the Ningbo drainage system is designed for 1 in 5 years to 1 in 20 years. So it was overwhelmed by the floodings, by the intense rainfall. For example, in 2013, the Typhoon Feifo, Ningbo suffered the very serious flooding. And because of that, Ningbo government want to reinforce the infrastructure to protect the city from flooding. And the smart city strategies is one of the their strategies. And there are 3 main strategies for smart city. The first one to increase water aid to provide the multiple water experience, and they also want to improve the water flow to decrease the water stagnation, and also treat the stormwater to decrease the nutrient loss. And by using these measures, they can reduce the urban flood risk and also mitigate the microclimate effect. Next page. And currently, there are over 100 of smart city projects in Ningbo, and the Eco Corridor is one of the main cases. You can see the overview map and the location of the Eco Corridor. It has won the award of the ASLA because of the scale is very big, and the design for the multiple criteria. For flooding control, water quality, and amenity value by considering the hydrology, topography, and vegetation. Next page. Before it was designed, this site is abundant and fragmented farmland with villages and factories for relocation. But this, you can see now, this is current looking of the Eco Corridor. I took these photos last summer, And you can see all these green infrastructure, they are combined into the site. And in the permeable pavement covers the whole area, and the bioswales is applied, conducted in the outside of the eco corridor, and it can drainage the surrounding stormwater to the middle water rivers and the wetland. Next page. This page shows the hydrological design of the eco corridor. They connect the existing system, the dead end and disconnected canal, to a series of free-flowing ponds and rivers. And they also use the innovative bioremediation technology to mimic the indigenous ecological process, so they can improve the existing quality of the canal water from Class V, restricted to industrial and agricultural uses, to the Class 3, suitable for ecological restoration and recreational use. Next page. And this cross-section profile shows how the stormwater was collected from the green roof and the permeable pavement, and then into the bioswale and the rainwater garden, finally enter the mainstream and the rivers, and finally into the coastal sea. And this salt water were treated before they enter the major waterways using this vegetation. And this process is demonstrated and included in the park program for the educational purpose, and also provide the wildlife habitat and the social well-being benefits. And is also integrated with the urban fabric between the greenway and surrounding landscape. Next page. So next section, we'll talk about the public perception and participation, because the smart city is a public project. It needs a public support and attract the private investors. So Ningbo has positively responded to the national calls and the province goals, and they promote the smart city construction in Ningbo with a different social engagement. For example, the Ningbo was selected as the second branch of the national pilot city in 2016. And after that, the CCTV reported and priced the construction of Ningbo, construction of the smart city in Ningbo. And the Zhejiang News also reported the successful experience of smart city in Ningbo, and try to transfer and adopt this experience in other cities. And we analyzed the thousands of online news, both in Chinese and Western newspapers, and we want to know how the smart city was reported from different perspectives. And besides of informing the public and improve their awareness, the government also want to collect the opinions from the public and want to encourage them to participate to the process of urban water management. So you can see in the street board, they shows there's some survey. You can scan the code and fill the survey. And this year, they also established an online platform for public to protect the urban water. They call the green water coins. So the public can complain the case and report the case online. They can also learn the knowledge and join the quiz. So by encourage the public participation initiative, you can see this relationship between the government, media, and public now is becoming more and more important. And next page, I will give the phase to give a final conclusion.
Yeah, so I think this section, thank you, Lucia, to talk about the progress of Shun City in Ningbo, particular on those developments. So I think for the conference of care and the section, I think we merge with Shun City future, that to merge with smart ideas that we think in our experience and our current project, we think that those very important. Firstly is the communication system between government and those actors, including communities, NGOs, and also users. So we also think the next stage, we need to do more census platform, for example, understanding the third risk level. So I know there's a lot of talks today, so we'll do it. And we're looking forward to have more discussion. And also we understand those things also related to not just to stormwater protection, but also on stormwater quality. So I think Smart City is a program that uses the green infrastructure to purify the stormwater as well. So I mean, for the pollution quality and things like that, that is can related to the environmental monitoring system on real-time monitoring and quality data. So we basically think the smart city and community and resilient concepts should be merged together to give better practices and opportunities for future smart city program development. And I think for smart city program, there's a lot of opportunities to create impact. So I think we can actually answer back those questions after Jane Joffer and Ferd a lot of issues that I encourage people and combine with us to work with media or to work with NGOs and things like that to create more social impacts. And also Smart City can go global actually. So last year, me and Lucy also have been invited talks about Smart City in Central America with the government in Guatemala City and NGOs there. It's very good experience. And then also with Hong Kong government this summer as well. So I think Smart City program has the ability to go global because why? Because a lot of people selling MBS, selling SUS, selling WSUD, but Smart City program is maybe good for the program designed for global south or the European countries that with high population densities and those issues that maybe it's good for us to explore further. And so we do have some challenges, like also mentioned by Lucy as well. Future, like we need to sort of green financing because we push the Smart City in that level and need to merge the water system to catchment levels. That Professor Fu in Exeter knows about catchment management a lot in the UK, and that Smart City at the moment is really still on the pilot or port site, let's say in the port scale. So it's not connected with the city's rivers and things like that. In Ningbo, it's already quite advanced because in some cities, it's just a pilot project. So I think this is another thing the government need to think about. And also challenges of climate change that we talk about change of it, right? So those extreme weather is very difficult to manage anyway. So the government need to sort out. So I think for conclusion is we just try to push Smart City program is good stuff, and also to combine with better planning system. And Lucy just speak about that and achieving sustainability goals and self-financing. Thank you very much.